To go back to my question, I was asking, what does surrender look like? What does it feel like? How does one do it? How does one practice this in daily life?
How to put it in simple language?
You want me to try?
Yeah.
I have an amateur version of all of these things, right?
Yeah.
Like I have a grammar for this because I'm a collector of experiences and I'm a writer of thoughts. I think there are two states. This is very trippy. Okay, this may make no sense to people watching.
No, I'm loving it.
I don't know when I had this thought. maybe 8 or 9 years ago. I realized when I'm afraid, I'm not breathing in completely, and when I'm ashamed, I'm not breathing out completely.
True.
So when I'm afraid,
because any state of mind, if it changes, it directly affects your breath.
Right.
Which is very clear.
Right.
First Hatha Pratipika, first thing.
And this is all pre-Vipassana. Like this is something I just bumped into. And when I'm ashamed, it's on the upper side, not on the lower side.
Yes.
And so I realized there's something about the breath and this and that. There was a moment in my life, many years after this, where I realized I had no instinct left anymore. Like I was so anxious, so afraid, and so tamasic in a certain way. I'd fallen into such a position. I would ask my friends who were somewhat intuitive and spiritually inclined. I was like, boss, I don't have an instinct. I don't know what to do. I have to think everything through and it's very tiring. And one of my friends, his name is Philip. He's an army veteran. He would be like, Prakhar, you need to let go. You need to surrender. Be like, boss, what is this? How do I let go? What am I holding on to? I can't tell. And he eventually said something. He's like, bro, the physical form of letting go or surrendering is breathing out. He says, just breathe out. Just breathe out. I have another friend who's a big fan of flow, who's a big fan of surrender. And his thing is, I don't keep me worried. It'll all work out. I'll just move with the way time moves. I'll just answer questions as they emerge. And something or the other shapes up. And it does for him. Life is much easier for him than anybody I know because he's just not bothered that much. And so surrender is physically the act of breathing out and intellectually not worrying too much and letting life take its shape. This is what I've understood of flow and surrender. Is that
Can we add one more thing
Please,
to it?
yes.
Also being constantly aware that I'm not the doer.
Right. That doing is happening to me. I'm not the doer.
Yes. So I don't take credit. So if I'm not the doer, I will not get anxiety or heavy breath because I'm not responsible for anything. In such cases, when you become aware, your actions will become spontaneously. And spontaneous action that will happen, that will be the actual flow.
This is kind of what I meant by instinct in that example. That was spontaneous action.
Then you realize that it's spontaneously ho gaya. And jab ho gaya, the doors will open.
It's very interesting also because this is exactly what Krishna is telling Arjun when he's anxious. He's deriving meaning out of self in the war.
Yes.
And Krishna is like, listen, you're all just instruments of me.
Yeah.
Right.
So coming back to that, when you're holding the knife or you are killing me, if I know that you are an instrument, then why should I worry about that?
Right. So there is no worry about death because there's a certain...
To be honest, there's no worry about anything. We are making life complicated. But this doesn't mean that I don't come, I don't talk to you. I'm not playing my role. Or when I go out, I don't eat. I'll do everything. Participate in everything, but internally unaffected.
I'll tell you also, I think what really happens, I think worry and Maya are deeply connected. Because what happens is, say I enter this room. You enter this room from here, you and I both. The first things we look at is what? The microphone and the chairs. Because the chair is something I have to sit on, the microphone is something I have to speak. Once I'm seated here, of my field of vision, the most central focus I have is on you. There is a biopsychological requirement to focus in on objects in your environment to make sense of the environment. This room would be overwhelming and would make no sense to me if I didn't know I had to come and sit and talk here. If I take somebody from Sentinel tribe in the Andaman or the Lakshadweeps, bring them here, they would not make sense of this. So our biology and psychology is programmed for sense making. When that sense making goes in overdrive and tries to answer too many uncertain questions, it becomes worry.
Now, coming back to this, whatever you're saying is true. That preparation or that is required. But in the mind, the awareness should be there that the outcome is never in your hands. You are free of the situation.
Yes.
I'm not saying go unprepared. Whatever is required is there. That is a part of life. You are in Maya, you're operating in Maya, which is accepted. But the results is never in your hand.
Bro, let me believe that for a second. Right? I'll work with you. That is such a fearful feeling because I'm like, wait, it's easier in a way कि I don't have to worry. Right? मैं छोड़ देता हूँ, मैं काम करता हूँ, मैं conversation करता हूँ, नहीं सोचता आगे क्या होता है. हाँ, please.
Identity crisis है ये.
Tell me more.
I don't want to let go of my identity, इसलिए fear है. कि चीजें मेरे हिसाब से होना चाहिए और मुझे कंट्रोल में रहना है.
My fear, in all fairness, is if
that
I'm
you're
not,
losing your identity because you're not completely letting go of things. Somewhere we want to say in everything. That fear is coming. Fear is not that how good you are with your job.
हाँ.
Fear is that थोड़ा मुझे grip चाहिए मेरे काम पे. Subconsciously it is working.
Because if I don't, then am I lazy or am I not looking after things? Because that's genuinely the talk. Haan.
No. See,
it's so interesting. No?
It is entangled. No.
Yeah, right. It is. It is entangled.
Yeah, and you're entangling it because again there is fear that चीजें मेरे हिसाब से होनी चाहिए. What I am saying is you're right, but दो condition नहीं. दो deconditioning. That I will give my best. Result मेरे हाथ में नहीं है. And more than that, anything I'm doing, I should enjoy. Automatically that enjoyment will be translated in your expression and the results will be given to you what you deserve. Nothing more, nothing less. So why to worry? But at the same time, I'm saying that, oh, sab kuch Brahman hai, sab kuch Maya hai. We call it the Vedantic shuffle. I call it the Vedantic shuffle.
You can move between layers of analysis. At the top, it means nothing, but at the bottom, it's a thing.
Vedantic shuffle here means that, I am the self, I am supreme human being, मैं कुछ नहीं करूँगा. सब कुछ माया है. I am running away from my role, right? I'm running away from my duties.
Sure, right.
So either you go this extreme, or either you come in this extreme, or you be in balance, enjoy both the extremes. Be in balance.
The middle path.
Live in this world, experience everything, prepare yourself. At the same time, be ready that results are not in my hand. Second time, internally, it is Maya. I'll enjoy the process. I'll watch the game. I'll play the game also. I will fall also. I will score also. But internally, I know that दूसरा गेम भी है जो घर पे होगा, दूसरा गेम भी है जो गाड़ी आएगा, बस then you are in balance and that is a perfect human being.
There is a brilliant thing that Goenka ji talks about in one of the days in his lecture. आपने करी Vipassana? Have you sat through it?
I have done Vipassana but another way.
Right? So Goenka ji talks about the story about his guru who is Sayaji Ubakhin, and he says, I realized from Sayaji Ubakhin about how to get angry. We were talking about anger earlier. He's like, this is what he would do. Sayaji would get super mad at somebody. He would go out and he would scold him and just tell him how he's wrong. And then he would walk back in the hut smiling, be like, Goenka, see what I did to him. And he was like, he was so light about his anger. He realized the performance of it. And then there's a parallel thing I heard from Osho in one of his lectures. Osho says, he's like, when you are crying, be crying. When you are happy, be happy. Become the thing itself and you will see it loses all power over you.
See, Osho was a great intellect. He had great experiences also. But his words were so crisp, people took it another way altogether also. So the another thing is, as you mentioned, talking to these great beings is another tricky game because what they see and what we infer is also a problem. So we will infer things according to our state of consciousness.
Sure.
That's a big problem.
Sure. Right. No, I completely understand. And think with somebody who spoke as much as Osho did, there is a lot of space for misapplication.
And his commentaries or the way he used to talk were fabulous. No one can...
I think at least it's the most entertaining to listen.
Yeah.
You can always say
I have realized on my journey that the great saints that I've met, they have a very... not weird, but a very different sense of humor.
Quirky sense of humor.
Very quirky. And they can change situations according to their will and the atmosphere also changes. But the sense of humor is very, very different. In fact, Swami Nityananda, the great, he used to always sleep like this. He was a great Siddha. He used to throw stones on people. In the beginning, people started talking bad about him, whatnot. One day, it is said he was sleeping like this and there was a big stone. And a family came with a small girl who was completely paralyzed. And they dragged her and got for her blessings and he threw a big stone on her. She felt unconscious. People started creating a chaos and all. When she woke up, she started walking. So we don't know how these great enlightened beings operate. They have their own ways to get things done.
Very interesting.
There are many such great things. That is the reason it is important to have knowledge.
Actually, it's a very interesting point because this could also become a good example for the misapplication problem. Because you see, the aesthetic of hitting a little girl with a stone is very radical. And if this allows somebody who thinks he's a great being to pretend and go around and doing things, they can fool a lot of people with this. So there is a misapplication problem with, I think there's a famous line. I'm not sure who said it. It's the finger that points towards God gets confused for God. Right? Language is such and the way humans interact is such that the ultimate truth cannot be put into words and explained because the words become it as opposed to it being a derivative of the words. And in that way, I think there's a misapplication problem with all spiritual wisdom is that people, they sometimes apply a lot of their own interpretation to it.
True. That is the reason. You're very right. That is the reason. Knowledge is very important. From where the source is coming. At the same time, again, see, very simple. Anything in life. If I'm saying knowledge will either bind you or liberate you. If you have this awareness all the time, you are in balance. Too much of knowledge without experience is also binding. And too much of experience without understanding what is written is also a problem.
If you are interested in my conversation with India's best, then you can listen to us exclusively on Spotify also. There's a link in the description. Press it. Listen to us as you walk, as you're in the train, as you're driving, as you're working out, as you're flirting. You'll still like it.